Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another edition of 108 Stitches Baseball Talk. My name is Scott Morgan, Roth the Motor City Madmouth, and I am pleased to be joined by my great crew tonight, Charlotte Bats, Rick Curti. Welcome back, Rick.
Thanks, Scott.
And Dave Hodges is back. Welcome back, Mr. Hodges.
Thank you so much, Scott.
Glad to have you. And, of course, last but not least, hopefully we can see him, not Mr. Isis, but Eric Katz. Okay, get up, Katz.
Thanks, Scott. It's always good to see you, too.
We always love having you guys. So, folks, get used to this fearsome foursome because, I'm looking forward to having these guys on for the majority of our baseball shows, and I can't think of a better group to be lined up with. So, just so you know, the theme of our broadcast tonight will be top 5 MLB owners by net worth according to MLB. Are these MLB owners getting their money's worth? Well, you know what? How could we not mention the fact that this is 2/22/22? I don't know where I'm going to be when they have 3/33. So that's a big time TBD there. So we're going to go out there and talk about 5 specific owners that I have set out. But before I do that, I want to mention the teams that are involved, their World Series championships. I'm going to go to each and every one of my panelists, okay? And they're going to give me some predictions about when or should they get their next title. And we're going to start off with the New York Mets as one of our teams. They've won 2 World Series titles. Their last one was 1986. They were established in 1962. The Toronto Blue Jays have won 2 championships. The last one is in 1986, and they were established in 1977. I can remember a guy by the name of Doug Alt that was on that team, and I won't get into a lot of specifics, but he's the one name that stood out to me. The Atlanta Braves have 4 titles in their long history, and their last one, 2021. And they were established in 1871, and they've been in Atlanta since 1966. And, of course, the San Francisco Giants, we know that they originated in New York, okay, but their last title was 2014, and it wasn't with Barry Bonds, okay, and they were established in 1883, and they've been in San Francisco since 1958. And last but not least, the Cleveland Guardians, yes, formerly the Indians. They have 2 World Series titles. And their last one was in 1948, and they were established in 1894. So, and the last time they won it in 1940, it was when you had Bob Feller. And I will tell you this, since I have 2 North Carolina guys on here, I had the good fortune of meeting Bob Feller when he was with the Gastonia Rangers, when I was working with this guy named Jack Farnsworth. And, Bob and I became good friends at the time because he spent a lot of time in the area at Sims Legion Park. I have an autograph somewhere that I really cherish quite a bit. And they defeated the Boston Braves. So, it's interesting when you look at the majority of these teams. As I alluded to, the Mets have 2 titles. The Blue Jays have a couple. The Braves have 4. The Giants have 8. And the Cleveland Guardians have 2. And on a day where we're filled with 2s of these 5 teams, okay, 3 of them have 2 titles. So if that isn't an irony, I don't know. I didn't really plan it that way, but that's kind of how it really is. So now what we're going to do here is I'm going to set the stage and introduce these owners, okay? And then you guys are going to go over from there. Steve Cohen, obviously, the New York Mets rookie, $15.9 billion. And the Mets were 77 and 85 and in 3rd place last year in the NL East. We'll go to another one. This might surprise a lot of folks. Edward Rogers, Toronto Blue Jays, and he's worth $11.5 billion. So I just want to repeat the Mets number again, $15.9 billion. And then we go to Edward Rogers, $11.5 billion. And when we talk about the AL East, he was 91 and 71. They were in 4th place in that division, and they missed the playoff by 1 game with the Yankees and the Boston Red Sox. And the amazing part about the Blue Jays' success is they started in Dunedin, worked to Buffalo, and then they ended up back in Toronto. And prior to that, they played in Buffalo during the condensed season. The 3rd team on the list is John Malone of the Atlanta Braves, valued at $8.0 billion. And the Braves, we all know they won the World Series last year. They were 88-73 in first place in the National League East. Not bad for a rookie, for a guy who's a new kid on the block, winning a championship the way that he did. Charles Johnson, San Francisco Giants, is worth $5.8 billion. And they were in first place in the National League West, 107.55, but they were knocked out by the Dodgers in the wild card round. And as I mentioned, he's worth $5.8 billion. And last but not least, Larry Dolan of the Cleveland Guardians, $5.5 billion. They were 80 and 82, but they were in second place in the American League Central. Now, I've given a lot of information out there, okay? And there's a lot to digest. Why is this such an important subject? Well, folks, let's not kid yourself, okay? We're in the midst of a lockout, okay? And a lot of these owners could probably hold out real well by not paying these salaries. And therefore, would they be able to break the union, potentially miss games? I don't think any of these owners are going to be able to worry about that. So I'm going to lead off with Rick Curti, okay? Giving you a lot to digest. What are your thoughts about each club and when they'll win another World Series? And we'll start off with the New York Mets and Steve Cohen.
Well, I'm not surprised he's on that list. He's one of the most wealthiest men. He's new. I love the hire of Buck Showalter. I'm glad that he's back in baseball. And can the Mets? They've been the New York mess recently. They've been a big mess there. So hopefully Cohen and his big money bag can bring another World Series championship to the Mets. Can it happen? It's too early to tell, but I like the direction they're going, especially with the hire of Buck Showalter, one of the best, greatest minds in all of baseball. So time will tell. He just got there. Let him get his, all his ducks in a row and all his hires there. But but can he do it? Sure, he can. Anybody can has a possibility of winning a championship, and we'll see what he does.
Well, the Buck Showalter is a really great hire. And not only that, let's face it, Steve Cohen threw some big money to get Max Scherzer as well. So, this guy's not afraid to spend any money at all. Mm-hmm. And I just like the fact that Buck Showalter gets another opportunity and doesn't have to leave because of what happened with his last stop with the Baltimore Orioles, how he had things going real well. And we all know that turned out to be a flame out. So let's talk about, Rick, the Toronto Blue Jays. I mean, this organization is obviously in the toughest division in all of baseball, and yet they find a way to continue to win.
Yeah, I mean, I'm surprised that he's up there, to be quite honest, but they're a really good organization. I love the Blue Jays. I remember the Joe Carter, Roberto Alomar, Devon White, the back-to-back World Series. We actually had our first real World Series between the Braves and the Toronto Blue Jays in the 90s. And they have been a great organization for a long time. They're doing really well. And, I mean, you win 91 games and you think you'd be in the playoffs and you miss it by one game. They are in a very, very tough division. That's a thing of what they got to compete with the Yankees. They got to compete with the Red Sox. But can the Blue Jays? Absolutely they can. They have great players, great ownership, great manager. They're doing a great job. But it's going to be hard to do that in that division with the Yankees and the Red Sox. One of those teams or two of those teams has to have a really off year, and the Blue Jays have to have a great year. So it's going to be tough, but can they win one? Absolutely.
Yeah, don't sleep on the Tampa Bay Rays either, because I'll tell you what, this team does more with nothing than I've ever seen in my entire life. But, they've mastered the art of building a club, being a small market team with great baseball people. Kevin Cash is an outstanding owner. We'll go on to the third team, Rick. John Malone of the Atlanta Braves, I mentioned earlier on top of the broadcast, at $8 billion. But he's got his World Series in his pocket already. And to me, what the Braves have done is just nothing short of phenomenal. They have a brand new ballpark in the suburbs at Truist Park. I believe that's Cobb County, if I remember right.
Cobb County, it's in Smyrna, Georgia.
Right. So, more power to the Braves. What are your thoughts on the Braves, Rick?
Well, I mean, he's got his ring. he just, hopefully they can get Freddie Freeman, get him signed up. If they lose him, that'll be very detrimental to that team. But they went on a run, an amazing, amazing run. They had their World Series or their All-Star game pulled from them because of the Georgia voting legislation. And they came back and told MLB, we won the World Series. So good for them for doing that. I remember the days of the Braves with Terry Pendleton and Glavine and Smoltz during the night when they won all those pennants and won the World Series. Um, of course, Fred McGriff was on that team, and so now they got a new owner. He's doing a great job. Got the World Series already, so you don't have to worry about that. Let's see if he can build some type of dynasty and let it go. So the Braves are in the right direction. You got a beautiful ballpark in Smyrna, Georgia, in Cobb County. And I've heard it's one of the best ballparks in baseball. So good for him, what he's doing. He's off to a great start.
Yeah, excellent manager too, isn't it?
Snedeker is one of the best managers in all of Major League Baseball. Great mind. He came from the minor leagues to the pros, so he's worked his way up. So Snedeker is an excellent, excellent manager.
All right, we'll move on to the San Francisco Giants. My goodness. I mean, to win 107 games and not be able to win a championship is mind-boggling. But you know what? Gabe Kapler's done an outstanding job, and the Giants continue to go ahead and load up on talent. And I've never been to that ballpark in San Francisco. I went to Candlestick Park years ago.
Yeah.
But how about those Giants? Gabe Kapler's done an incredible job, hasn't he?
Giants are an amazing story. When I heard about the Gabe Kapler hire, wasn't very enthusiastic, but they knew something that I didn't, and to win all those games and get and be a wild card, is just it's amazing that and my hate to say that my Dodgers, because we're not Giant fans, but I've always had so much respect for the Giants for what they've done, especially winning 3 World Series. They had Bochy there. I know Buster Posey just retired. But I mean, to win all those games and like barely squeak in is just amazing. It just shows you how tough that division is. And I think the Dodgers and the Giants can be battling for a long time, but they got the 3 World Series, and they won a lot when they were the New York Giants. I remember about the Bill Terry days. So they have a great organization, one of the most successful organizations in all of Major League Baseball, and they got a beautiful ballpark. I remember Candlestick Park was one of the worst, but I loved Candlestick Park. But they have a beautiful one right now. It's one of the best in all of baseball. So Giants are just a great, great organization, and with Gabe Kapler, they really haven't skipped a beat.
And the last one, Rick, you're going to talk about will be the former Cleveland Indians, the Cleveland Guardians. I mentioned Larry Dolan and his $5.5 billion. Tough year last year, 80 and 82. I have a feeling they'll be trimming payroll, working toward a rebuild. But they were in second place in the AL Central, as I alluded to earlier. The last time they won one is in 1948 when Bob Feller was on the hill. So what are your thoughts about the Cleveland Indians? They've been on a very long, long drought for sure.
Yeah, I'm still trying to get used to the Guardian name. Not a big fan of that name,
Right.
but that's another show, a different time. I think he's probably on the list, probably not the most successful one on there so far because they haven't won a World Series in so long. I mean, I think Bob Feller was when they last won the World Series. So they got a World Series drought. When the Cubs finally won the World Series, the Indians were the team that made that list of biggest droughts without a World Series. So we'll see what happens. I think they're going to go for a rebuild. It may be a long couple seasons for them. We'll see how it goes. They've been so close of winning a championship. So close when in the World Series with the Braves. So close with the Marlins. I mean, it's just been so frustrating for them not to win one. So I'm always rooting for them to win one and get off that list of the biggest droughts. But I think the next 2 or 3 years it's going to be rough because they're going to go for a rebuild.
Yeah, I got a great manager in Terry Francona. Well, now that you've talked about the 5, Rick, we're going to defer to Dave Hodges. All right, Dave, you know the drill. We'll talk about each owner. Steve Cohen, give me your observations.
Well, it's definitely good for the New York Mets. Obviously, that the group or the ownership group containing Alex Rodriguez and Jennifer Lopez obviously, I know they had a bid in for the team. They were, had a lot of relationship drama shortly after Steve Cohen, was given the green light for the team. So that's obviously very good, for the franchise. So obviously they didn't get swept up in all the, paparazzi and the Hollywood media out there. So, I think it's, Met fans have a lot to look forward to. As, you guys mentioned, Max Scherzer is there now. So, he's probably going to be he definitely will be the ace of that squad. I just think, I'd probably say within 5 years, I think the Mets will be back in the World Series. Whether or not they'll win it, it's still to be determined. But I definitely believe that they will be back sometime soon. I think they're going to, Cohen's going to continue to build a great culture up there, and obviously, Mets fans are, they're very dedicated to their team. Especially, obviously, like a lot of, fans are, especially in cities like New York. But yeah, it's, again, the Mets, they dodged a Hollywood bullet, like I said, I mentioned moments ago, and not having Alex Rodriguez and Jennifer Lopez take over the team. But I think it's, there's, nowhere to go but up for the Mets, and the fans, they have to be super hyped, and, it won't happen right away. But I believe, like I said, within 5 years, I'd say the Mets will be back in the World Series.
I don't think Mets fans want to hear within 5 years. They're looking for something a whole lot faster than that. That's for sure. But considering the fact that they have a 1-1 in 86, now they don't want to wait much longer. But I definitely see your point. All right, David, talk about the Toronto Blue Jays.
Well, as you guys said, they are in in one of the toughest, if not the toughest, conference in Major League Baseball. Obviously, the AL East. It's going to be very hard to compete when you got two teams, usually that's it 1 and 2. Obviously, that is the Boston Red Sox and New York Yankees, where, those are franchises that are willing to basically, you can almost say, go out and spend anything, for top players, to get them to those clubs. And, it would just, it would have to be kind of almost, the stars would align, for the Blue Jays to be able to make a deep run where, everything just comes together. Maybe, Red Sox and Yankees would have down years. We've seen, players that have signed for teams and for those teams, it's not really quite worked out. I'm kind of harking back to Daisuke Matsuzaka for the Red Sox. He came to the United States with so much fanfare, and obviously the Red Sox got him, and then Frank Cohen had to deal with him again in Cleveland, but we'll get to that. And the Yankees signed Ki Igawa many years back to kind of be the answer to Matsuzaka. He never worked out. So, yeah, I know Eric will want to weigh on that one. But, so it's, again, it's, going to be it's the toughest division, in my personal opinion, in Major League Baseball. When you got those two storied franchises right there, I would love to say within the next 10 years, but sorry, Blue Jays fans, I don't see your team going back to the World Series anytime soon. Hopefully they can, maybe draw some big name players north of the border, but I'd say definitely just, sit back and get comfortable, because for the Blue Jays, I feel like it's going to be a while.
Okay, well, it's fair enough. Okay, and of course we know about the Atlanta Braves right up the road, I-85 for you guys. What are they, 4 hours away or something like that?
Yep.
Well,
4.5.
4.5.
Depends how fast you drive.
Well, I guess the one thing that Atlanta Braves can feel very good about is they don't have to wait, have to worry about when their next one's going to come. They're looking to repeat. So, David, let's talk about the Braves for a moment. There's a team that really, in my opinion, kind of came out of nowhere to win it last year. Got hot at the right time, and they've developed a lot of their players and brought in some key players at certain times because of injury issues last year. And lo and behold, they're world champs.
Oh, definitely. And, personally, I believe, Freddie Freeman is going to be the linchpin of that, as, to see where he goes this offseason. There's talk that the Yankees are, wanting to go all in for him. I mean, this kid, he's been with the franchise, I believe, over 10 years now, I believe. Because I was, watching after they had won the series, and where it said, he's been with them. Obviously, he's come up through the minor league system, and he's been a Brave his entire career. And if they can keep him, personally, I believe, of course, there will be some players that will come and some players that will go. But I believe he is the catalyst. If he comes back, I firmly believe that they can definitely make another deep run in October. Again, we will have a season this year, which I believe we will. But yeah, I think it all hinges on Freddy Freeman. He's everybody loves him, fan favorite. You go back. I don't know if I could call him the next Chipper Jones. In the realm of fan favorite. Kind of the like the native son. So to speak. Someone who's been with the franchise his whole career. As y'all said, Snedeker. He's incredible. I think he's been with the franchise for, I believe, over 20 some years. So, he definitely knows the culture. He knows how, with player development, he's worked his way up and, now he's enjoying the fruits of that, which is obviously, a nice championship ring. If Freeman stays with Atlanta, I definitely could definitely see the Braves making another deep run for many years to come, of course. If he comes back to Atlanta, then obviously, that's that weight is going to be hung around his neck, to constantly bring more, championships to that franchise and to that city. I believe we're just going to have to wait and see.
Yeah, Brian Snitker, without a doubt, in my opinion, is the most underrated manager in baseball, and he definitely showed what he was like. And the fact that he was able to beat the Houston Astros, one of Rick Curti's favorite teams. Although I felt bad for Dusty Baker because I was really hoping Dusty would win one, but you can't knock what the Braves did.
I was rooting for Dusty.
Yeah, a lot of people probably did. So, all right.
I've always been a fan of Dusty.
Yeah, me too. All right, so we'll go to San Francisco. And again, Charles Johnson got 107 wins, but not enough to go ahead and win it all. So, again, you're talking about a tough division out there. I know San Diego's going to get better because they went out there and brought in Doug Melvin. And you all know the Dodgers are a buzzsaw, and of course the Giants. You got three monsters there. Well, let's talk about the Giants, David.
My opinion is the second toughest division in Major League Baseball is the NL West. Obviously, the Giants. They had three World Series championships in 5 years: 2010, 2012, 2014. Of course, every time and after 14, when it was an even year, everybody said, "Look out for the Giants." Some players are gone. Obviously, who was actually a local guy, Curti, Madison Bumgarner, Mad Bum. I know he was quite a catalyst for many of those teams, and obviously Lincecum. The guy was pretty much unhittable. Yeah. When he was in his prime, and obviously those players have moved on. And of course Bochy, as we talked about, he's one of the, best managers, that I said this generation has seen. Obviously, again, to win 3 World Series championships in 5 years. That's definitely, something, many Giants fans can be proud of. Obviously, it's been, 7 years now since they had won a World Series title. Giants fans, they're dedicated, as are a lot of baseball fans. They're willing to dig in and, kind of just sit back, wait for their time. But again, San Diego's on the rise. Obviously, they got Tatis Jr. down there. So, they got a lot. If they can, teams south of them contained, then, definitely San Fran can make another great run in October. I'd probably say, within 10 years, whereas I said, for Toronto, get comfortable. But Giants fans, I think I do see another World Series in your future.
Well, they're not afraid to spend money. And, of course, obviously that division being difficult. And when you're in San Diego and you get Bob Melvin, who did a lot with nothing in Oakland, that's an upgrade in its own right. Mm-hmm. So the last team you're going to talk about, David, is Larry Dolan and the Guardians. Like Rick said, we got to get used to the Cleveland Guardians, and the championship drought.
Stupid name.
So this one could be a tough one here, and let's not kid yourself. The Detroit Tigers could be on the rise in that division. They have a lot of their young prospects starting to come of age a little bit, And that division is there for the taking. It really, really is. The Tigers, you know what? They had a major improvement under A.J. Hinch, which doesn't sit well for, the Indians. So what's your take on the Indians, David?
Well, for Cleveland, I got 2 words for you: Theo Epstein. The end of the drought in Boston, end of the drought in Chicago with the Cubs. I do not see him going to Cleveland. Of course, they called him the drought buster. Of course, taking those 2, storied franchises back to the promised land. The Guardians, I've always been I've been a big Francona fan for a long time. Enjoyed his methods there in Boston. I just don't know when I would see another World Series in them. Again, it's great culture up there. Francona, he knows how to manage a ball club. He knows how to command the respect of the players. Obviously he's been to the promised land a couple times. Of course, with the Red Sox. Again, they got so close in 2016 against the Cubs, and they're just itching to get back, into October, or into the World Series, and not really sure when I'd see the Guardians getting back into the World Series again.
Well, and of course, the Chicago White Sox playing good ball with Tony Ageless La Russa, and I mentioned the Tigers, and of course, you never know what can happen with the Minnesota Twins and the Royals, who could be building a little quicker. All right, well, the man who's waiting patiently resides out in the Madison area. No, we're not going to get into what happened with Juwan Howard, because I know you'd like to talk about Juwan Howard and Greg Gard. So we're going to leave it alone. Okay, Eric. But you get your crack at these teams as well. What are your thoughts about the Mets?
I mean, Gary Cohen wants to win, so obviously there's a commitment there. You got Buck Showalter, who's been a winner everywhere he's gone, so that's good. Plus, you have Jacob deGrom and Max Scherzer in the same starting rotation.
Right.
That's good. It's good to pen, though. I mean, they got some good bats, but they weren't hitting a lot last year. So, but my only, obviously Mets fans want to win, but until they, we've seen this before with the Mets, where they'll spend, and then no results. But I don't really see it changing, because I feel like Francisco Liriano, once he got that bat, boom. Once he got that contract, boom, there went the bat. And then Javier Baez, well, he's a very streaky player. It happened to him in Chicago. He's either hitting the ball or he's whiffing.
Yeah, well, with Steve Cohen, I think the thing you'll wonder about is, will he have a quick hook with his managers after 2 or 3 years when he's investing a lot of money? And when you have owners like that are not only active on Twitter, but they spend a lot of money, the patience factor comes into play, doesn't it, Eric?
He did that with Luis Rojas, which, keep in mind, though, Rojas wasn't supposed to be the guy. It was supposed to be Carlos Beltran, but he got caught up in the sign stealing scandal. So the Mets kind of were left with no choice but to kind of say thanks, but no thanks.
I mean, I like Sandy Alderson. He's always been a really sound executive for sure. So, all right, let's take you to Canada, Eric, where you can talk about the Toronto Blue Jays.
Pretty good pitching staff. They just added Jose Barrios in there, who I think is a solid arm. You also have one of the most exciting players in baseball right now, in Vlad Guerrero Jr., starting to remind me of his daddy. And you also have Cavan Biggio, Craig's kid. So a lot of good things happening there. And any other division, they would be a contender. Unfortunately, though, they play in the American League East, which two of the best teams money can buy play there.
You also don't you have Dante Bichette too as well? He's a good young player for him as well. So you talk about some generational kids.
Bo Bichette.
Bo Bichette, okay. Dante was a dad. Bo, thanks for correcting me there, David. But it's a Bichette nevertheless. Okay, and when you have good bloodlines with each of those 3 names, it's pretty good. But yeah, I think the one thing we can all definitely agree on is the Toronto Blue Jays are just simply in the wrong division. Otherwise, they can easily make it to the postseason. And like I said, I'll tell you right now, the fact that they've been able to win despite going from Dunedin to Buffalo to Toronto and winning despite the pandemic to me is truly remarkable. Okay, Eric, with that said, let's talk about the Atlanta Braves. You get your crack at the Braves.
Well, all you have to see is the World Series flag that's going to be flying at that ballpark. They have, but keep in mind though, that team overcame an injury to arguably probably would have been MVP, Ronald Acuna Jr. An injury like that could have just taxi-turvied the season. But they were able to manage through it thanks to Freddie Freeman, who was able to kind of get guys to rally together, and they eventually caught fire at the right time, and they made it all the way to the World Series and beat the heavily favored Astros. Even though I was rooting for Dusty Baker to get one because the guy just has the worst luck in the world. Who I like to think is the Marty Schottenheimer of Major League Baseball.
That's a good analogy. I like that one. Marty Schottenheimer of Major. Very, very good. Like that. Mm-hmm. All right. Well, let's go to San Francisco, Eric.
Oh, another out of nowhere team. I mean, originally going to the season, we thought the Giants would be an afterthought, and the division would come down to the Dodgers and the Padres. Well, the Padres got a little too much ego in that clubhouse right now, and then meanwhile the Giants just caught fire. Solid pitching staff, got some good young hitters there, especially Donovan Solano. Yeah, they're going to lose Buster Posey, but which is going to be a key loss because he was a leader of those World Series teams. But you got a solid team right there that builds very quietly, and then they come out of nowhere and bite you. They did that against the Tigers when Miguel Cabrera had the Triple Crown year, and they also. And so, you got some solid young hitters and a pretty good pitching staff. I mean, why can't they win a World Series? I'd probably say, out of all the teams, I think they're the closest to do it again.
Okay, well, that's good to know. All right, and then nobody's giving Cleveland a good picture here. So, how long do you think it'll be before the Guardians get back to the World Series?
10 years at least, because I think they've been shedding guy after guy after guy the past few years, and yeah, they still have Shane Bieber, who's probably who's probably I think an underrated ace in the game. Who he strikes out hitters that at a clip that's not a lot of pitchers can get, but unfortunately though Cleveland's just they're going to be rebuilding, although they always have a good farm system. And there's plenty of they always have one of the best in baseball, and there's plenty of players they're going to do. I can see Shane Bieber being traded to a pennant-winning team, and they get themselves a haul in return. And it won't be very long it will be a little while, but I think Cleveland could come back again because every time they're in the World Series, they are so close. I'd probably argue they're one of the most tortured fan bases in baseball. Like we saw it against the Cubs when Rajai Davis hit the home run off Aroldis Chapman, which I remember that because I was in college when that was going on. And then, unfortunately though, Ben Zobrist got the game winning hit, which the Cubs, broke the curse of their 100-year curse of their own.
Okay, so now what I'm going to ask each and every one of you a very easy question. I know we probably talked about it, but now I'm going to just put a question format very straightforward. Of these 5 teams, we'll lead off with you, Rick. Who wins the World Series first?
I would say Braves.
Okay. David?
I'm going to go with Rick here. I'm going to have to say Atlanta.
Eric?
The Giants.
Okay. Well, you know what? To me, I have to admit that I would probably go with the Braves because of the division that they're in. But I tell you what, I would be pulling for Toronto all day long if they can just get into the playoffs, because they would be very dangerous. So with that said, okay, one guy that's not on this list, and each of you guys gave me wows on this one, is Hal Steinbrenner. Can you believe that for as valuable as the Yankees franchise is, I don't have those numbers right now because they're not relevant to what we're talking about. Rick, let's start with you. How surprised were you that the Steinbrenners or Hal Steinbrenner was not on this list?
Completely shocked because they have their own TV network. So I'm thinking they got it. They're one of the, worth billions and billions and billions of dollars. So must be daddy's money, So I was very shocked. I thought for sure the Yankees would be on there by a lot. They're most wealthiest teams in all sports, and for them to not be on the top 5, is shocking to me.
What about you, David?
Yeah, it's real. It's almost like any list you're going to have just in pro sports in general. To not have the Yankees on it. Yeah, a lot of people would just might consider it sacrilegious, but I mean, yeah, it's but you think never count out the Bronx Bombers. You never count them out. They a lot of times or like a lot of teams. That may seem like they're kind of dead and buried. As the season goes along, they might be having slump after slump, but when it comes playoff time, throw out what happened in the regular season and. Teams like that, they always seem to find a way in, and they always seem to find a way to advance as well.
Yeah, but my question to you, David, are you surprised that the Steinbrenners are not in the top 5?
I am. You would think, like I said, that team, worth billions, as Rick mentioned, they have their own, TV network, but it seems, there's, a lot of new money, is coming into the league, and they have been displaced.
What about you, Eric?
I was very, very surprised. I mean, this is a team that for years has been one of the biggest spenders in baseball. They also have their own television network in the Yes Network, which broadcast their games as well as Nets games, and I believe they might even have the Rangers as well. But I was very surprised because the Yankees, we see what they draw at the gate. They're one of the more expensive tickets in baseball, and they just and it was just very, very shocking to me because this is the house of Steinbrenner. They got money. George got rich off of building ships.
Yeah, he sure did. All right, so now. No, and I definitely was surprised that the Steinbrenners didn't get on this list. So now we're going to talk about the lockout for about 5 minutes before we wrap this bad boy up, or 10 minutes. Obviously, we know 5 owners that really don't care if this lockout goes on any longer. But where do you guys predict where this lockout will go and how long? How many games will be actually missed? Because for me, I wouldn't be surprised if the owners attempt to break the union. I really would not. I think there's precedents of that, and then we could be looking at potentially missed games. I know that right now, the sides are far apart. So, Rick, go ahead.
Well, I do think it's going to be a short season. I think the last meeting they had lasted 15 minutes, and it's just no one's budging right now. And unfortunately, they're not thinking about the fans. They're just thinking about their pockets right now. So I do see a shortened season. I see like a 145 game season. So unfortunately, but a lot of people have been complaining that baseball plays too many games anyway. So, but I do see a shortened season. And I think once baseball comes back, I think the fans are going to be like, okay, lockout's over. Baseball's back. Let's get ready to play.
So you don't think the backlash, Rick, will be as devastating as it was in 1994 when Sosa and McGuire and Cal Ripken Jr. bailed the sport back after, of course, they're not worried about losing the World Series here, just maybe losing the beginning of the season, right, Rick?
No, I don't think so because 94, the World Series was canceled. That's only the second time that Major League Baseball didn't have a World Series. So that was devastating. But times have changed. I think people kind of see that sports is a business. I think they see owners as it is, and they just know it's all about money for them. And I think once the season starts, the baseball fan will say, "Oh, great! Now that that's over with, now we can watch some baseball games." So if it goes farther and farther, and there's more, and the season really gets close, like getting canceled, there will be backlash. But as long as there's a season and a World Series and all that, I don't think the fans are going to have a problem with it.
Yeah, see, I think if the season is under 100 games, then it could be damaging because at that particular point, but April, May, sometimes you often wonder whether the NBA, who pays attention to it anyways, until January, or the NHL, the same thing. What about you, David? At what point or another, first of all, do you think that the owners are attempting to break the union?
Yeah, I believe they are. It's there's always been the struggle between players and owners, across all of professional sports. I think the casual fans are obviously they know what's going on. They're kind of keeping an eye on it. Say if new article comes written on any advancements they've made in talks, everybody wants to read it. And I don't think it will be a problem until it goes, say, deep into a time that would be spring training. Obviously, pitchers and catchers were supposed to report several days ago. Once they start canceling games, obviously the baseball purists obviously they're going to be upset. Hopefully COVID, the Omicron is starting to subside. So, everybody's at some point, they want to get back out and start enjoying baseball. And, of course, thankfully, this won't affect, I believe, some other, independent leagues. So, if this goes into the season, obviously it would be good for, the lower league teams, obviously, of course, the Atlantic League, like we have here in the Carolinas, again, that's, they are not affected by, the lockout. And, I definitely, it's something that would be, beneficial for those teams, obviously, or, those teams, they would, see an uptick in, or especially teams, in areas that have, Major League Baseball within driving distance. But, I think, they're going to start to feel the pressure, once, if it gets to near the end of spring training and they can see that games are going to start to be canceled, fans are going to get mad. And so I think everybody's just kind of sitting back right now and, just waiting to see where it goes and hoping they'll kind of, come to a happy medium, sometime within the next couple of weeks.
All right. So, David, let me ask you a straight question, a very easy one. At what point does it become damaging? How many games? Just give me a number.
I'd say if they lose around, call it 50 games, that's
Okay.
when I would say the fans would start to really grit their teeth and snarl at the league. And I'd say if they have to cancel, I'd say 50 games. Then for sports fans, sports pundits, we would have a problem on our hands.
Okay, Eric, and you can comment on this as well. Okay, do you think that the owners are looking to break the union?
Every time there's a lockout in baseball, the owners are no doubt going in their horns raised, trying to break the union. We saw it when the first strike happened, and with Marvin Miller and that organization, as well as two during the 80s, and obviously 94. Like I think they will try and break the union because everybody knows that the owners absolutely despise the union upon the union's arrival.
Okay. So at what point, how many games in your mind would be damaging, Eric?
If they don't play any less than I want to say 150-ish games. So let's just say if they lose 50 games, then I think that'll be very, very hurtful to the fans.
You said 50, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, very good. Well, now you have it. So just to give everybody who's just joining us here an idea what we've talked about, hopefully you'll have an opportunity. If you haven't seen the entirety of this broadcast, we've talked about the top 5 MLB owners, their net worth, and of course we're trying to tie that in with the lockout and when they'll win their next World Series. And I really enjoyed this conversation because we are right now at a point where spring training games could be lost real shortly. So these are the kind of things that as we find out what we really have, as Gene Hackman would say, let's see what hand I've been dealt in the movie Hoosiers. This is a hand that baseball fans are being dealt here in terms of the lockout itself. So, great job, guys. So with that said, for those of you folks that want to listen to this show, now you can also find us the audio version on Spreaker, Spotify, Apple, Google, iHeartRadio, and also subscribe to our YouTube channel, South Florida Tribune. You can also find the show on www.southfloridatribune.com. So we have a lot of different places that you can find it in addition to what we're doing right now to make sure that this broadcast is live. So you know what? We started off with Rick Curti, so we're going to continue Rick Curti. Let everybody know how they can get a hold of you.
Well, you can find my website at www.charlottebats.com. My email address is cltbatsbaseball@gmail.com. I'm also on Facebook at Charlotte MLB. I'm also on there at Charlotte Bats Baseball. I'm also on Instagram at Charlotte Bats, and I'm also on Twitter at Charlotte Bats Baseball. And you can find me on LinkedIn under Rick Curti, Curti.
And folks, just if you look at our ticker right here, we encourage you, like I say, to subscribe to the South Florida Tribune YouTube channel. Our website's on there, and our Twitter handle is at Tribune South. David, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm on Facebook under Dave Davino Hodges. The middle name Davino. It's a huge soccer fan. Anybody that follows me on social media would know that. Big fan of the old-time Brazilian teams and how they always have the nickname. So I kind of gave myself a Brazilian nickname, even though I was born right here in North Carolina. I'm also on Twitter at Dave Talks Sports.
Very good. All right, Eric, go ahead.
You can find me on Twitter at Sports Team News. Also, I write for bellyupsports.com covering Wisconsin Badgers football.
Okay, well, there you have it. So just so you know, we did get a comment here from Ron Kroll, who says, as much as I look forward to hearing spring training on the radio, because, of course, that signifies MLB is about to start, and that means summer is here as well. He says he's losing interest and doesn't feel sorry for these wealthy capitalist owners and players and spoiled. So, Ron Kroll, he's a friend of the show, and I wouldn't be surprised if we echo those sentiments here that indeed that you talk about the majority of how people feel. So, folks, we encourage you to go ahead and provide comments during the course here. And if I see some that are worthwhile, I will definitely go out there and mention them on the air, because you know what? Ron Kroll makes a lot of valid points, and I think he's really speaking for a lot of the majority of the people that are out there, and when you're talking about millionaires versus billionaires, I don't think anybody's too sympathetic. I think we can all relate before we wrap this thing up. Rick, I know we always like to joke around about Latrell Sprewell. How about that situation? $21 million wasn't enough to feed his family when
Or Terry Pendleton during the '94 strike when he went on national TV and complained he was only making $8 million a year. And what a travesty that was.
Ron Kroll adds that he still loves the game despite everything going on. So, again, we encourage you folks to go out there and please comment, because I promise you that I will go out there and mention your comments on the air. I would rather just mention these comments on the air rather than type them in, because I think that everybody goes out there, to me, deserves an opportunity to say what they've got to say. So, yeah, Latrell Sprewell. So what happened when he left the Minnesota Timberwolves? Well, you know what? He definitely probably can't go ahead and feed his family anymore, because they let him go, and he was never the same after that. But, there's a lot of things that are going to play out here for sure. And, we haven't seen an awful lot yet. So, folks, this is 108 Stitches Baseball Talk. My name is Scott Morgan, Rock Motor City Madmouth. Pleased to be joined by Charlotte Bats, Rick Curti, a.k.a. Mr. Opinion, and Dave Hodges, who also does some public relations or PA announcing for the Gastonia Honey Hunters. Is that correct?
Yes, I also did scored for half the season last year, and hopefully I'll be broadcasting for the Honey Hunters this year. They did stream on Facebook, but did not have a broadcaster. From what I'm being told, they will have one this year. I'm just waiting to talk to the higher-ups about that opportunity.
Well, I wish you well there. I met Dave through National Sports Media Association out in North Carolina. I believe it was in 2019, a little while back before the pandemic messed everything up. And Eric Katz is one of those guys.
It was before the pandemic.
Right, exactly. And Eric Katz came across him on Twitter. So you never know who you can meet wherever you want to meet them. So meanwhile, once again, we appreciate everybody for joining us here on 108 Stitches Baseball Talk. Some of the other shows that we have in the hopper here, we have Inside the Pigskin, which is our football show, the Sports Exchange, No Limits, which is a non-sports show in the South Florida Tribune podcast. So we have a show for pretty much everybody out there. So for all you folks that, like I said before, that want to comment about what we're talking about, I'll do better than type them in there. I will just simply go ahead and read them off and mention them and let everybody respond to them. So any closing thoughts, guys?
It's a great show. And for the Indians, they need to get rid of that silly Guardian name and go back to the original name that they were before, the Cleveland Spiders.
And for those of you that are wondering why I'm wearing the University of Miami right now, because I know there's probably a few out there that wonder, college baseball, folks, is going on, and the Miami Hurricanes are one of the premier programs well. So, meanwhile, on behalf of Rick Curti, Dave Hodges, and Eric Katz, my name is Scott Morganroth. Thank you for joining us on this edition of 108 Stitches Baseball Talk, and we hope you follow us and stay with us. We have a lot of great shows in the pipeline with all the different shows. So good night, everybody, and thank you very much for joining us.
Good night.
Night, y'all.
Good night.